All right, this is a little video that wanted to talk about ABC and a little bit of their bias. So let's go ahead and get started.
The case out of Florida that has sparked so much controversy nationwide, the unarmed teen shot and killed by a local community watch member. Well, now Trayvon Martin's girlfriend is speaking out about his final moments, and ABC's Matt Gutman is in.
So just to start, of course, everybody knows that all of them were being biased as far as showing the pictures. But with this video, you'll see that the bias spreads beyond just the pictures.
Miami this morning with the very latest. Good morning to you, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Josh. Overnight, we learned that the Department of Justice is taking over this case, investigating it as a possible hate crime.
So immediately, ABC decides to tell everybody that this could be possibly a hate crime. At such an early stage in an investigation, I would think that they would make that clear that there is no real solid evidence of any hate crime, but they just seem to think that it's okay to make it come across as if George is a racist. They're showing the big fat-headed picture of him and these little tiny pictures of Trayvon.
And as the FBI begins to gather evidence, ABC News has obtained exclusively the last information about what happened to Trayvon Martin just before he was killed from the last person to speak with him. Seconds before 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was killed just yards from his house by George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, these call logs obtained by ABC News show he was on the phone with a 16-year-old girl. ABC News was there exclusively as an attorney for Martin's family prodded her late Monday about what she heard that night as she spoke to Martin on his cell phone.
He said his man was watching him, so he put his hoodie on.
The young woman's parents asked we not use her name and that only the attorney question her.
So Dee Dee this is the first we hear from Dee Dee. Apparently this is March 20th that this video is released on YouTube. So, you know, she's apparently telling the story that now we already know because we all have access to it. And I've made the Dee Dee series of videos there. You can look on my videos if you click on the videos tab above the screen and listen to them. You'll see that I tore apart her testimony and made it real clear that she was being misled, or she was misleading. She was being led by the investigator to go to a certain conclusion. So, you know, if you want to see how that went, it's, you know, it's kind of a long video. I've actually got 3 of them because it's long, but it's very clear she misled. And the funny thing is that they won't allow anybody to ask her questions, not even ABC. The only people that are allowed to ask her questions are her lawyers because they know what they want her to say and they can keep her on the right track. If you watch the videos, you'll see that she is caught and she lies, she misleads, she's led, and I prove it all.
He said suddenly Martin was cornered, asking the man,
So I said, what you following me for? And the next I'm going to say, what you doing around here?
So, of course, that tells us that, you know, what I've already said many times, that Trayvon came up to George. So, and I'll just go ahead real quick and give you guys a synopsis of what I think happened, because most people that are listening to this may have already seen my video where I lay out the map and the time frame and listen to the call and listen to the sounds in the background, the car, George getting out of the car when he tells us that Trayvon's making it around the corner. So we really we get a pretty good fix on where George is and where Trayvon is at one point, at least. And then Trayvon disappears around that corner, and that's the corner where he died. So he's gone from that corner for over 4 minutes, and then he comes back. So my opinion, and I believe it's borne out in the facts, is that he went home and then he went back. He was then, if anybody was trying to stalk somebody, it would have been Trayvon. I mean, if you, in the term, when I use the term stalk, not in the legal sense, but in the sense of like a wild kingdom sense, like the animals, he was stalking George. He was, sneaking around behind the bushes and keeping an eye on him, and then getting him to a point where he felt comfortable to confront him. So I believe that's what happened. I think he went down there. His dad's girlfriend says that he was on the patio, and I've got a video that shows that. In Dee Dee's series, you can see that I prove that Trayvon was actually home, or really close to home, because he refuses to run anymore, and that is what she said. So she's telling us that he's home. So how he got all the way back up there, nearly a football field away, after he was home, makes no sense. So that's why we pretty much know now at this point that it was Trayvon that was going after George. Okay, here we go.
I pushed Trayvon because I had set this down.
She says the line then went dead. Seconds later, Zimmerman shot Martin.
I'm pretty sure the guy's dead out here.
So they have the sound of the explosion from the gun, and immediately they have John speaking. And John says, I'm pretty sure the guy is dead out here. Holy. And of course, George said a lot more, but ABC doesn't talk about that. We have to go to Fox to get any bit of that information of what John really said. John said that George was getting pummeled by Trayvon, MMA style, but they don't want to talk about that. Look at the picture. Just take a good little look at that picture. Does that look anything like this 6'3" kid that beat the hell out of George? I mean, even close. And do you think that if they would have put Trayvon's face on that picture right there with his grill shooting the birds, you think that people would have had pity then? No, this is all part of the way that the media has led people. And so many people have been led like they're like little sheep.
The case has sparked national outrage and protests. Zimmerman.
Yes, it has. Look at this big-faced guy. Of course it's sparked outrage because of ABC's reporting. ABC, NBC, CBS, even Fox in the early days was really, really bad about this whole thing.
Confessed to the shooting, claiming self-defense. Martin's family says he was murdered, that the 17-year-old had only stepped out to buy candy during the NBA All-Star game.
So they said that he had just stepped outside to buy candy during the game. Well, now we know that's not true. He was at the store at 6:22, and the shooting happened after 7. So, it's a 10-minute walk to the store. So how was it that and we know the game didn't start until much later. So he was, according to Dee Dee, he was hurrying home so that he could get there in time for the game. So, this whole thing about them, they're obviously not telling the truth here. Either that or they've got it mixed up already.
All that anger partly stoked by Zimmerman's call to police that night.
They always get away. Are you following them? Yeah. Okay, we don't need you to do that.
He did anyway, and as...
Now, this is where I believe that George has a really solid case. The outrage, the anger that you see in the community and all these Trayvon gatherings and these people beating people up and then yelling, "This is for Trayvon," and people, doing flash mobs and robbing stores and stuff like that. I even saw one situation where a Trayvon march was organized by the school, and while they were in the march, the kids went into a Walmart or a Walgreens and just ripped stuff apart. Fortunately, one of the adults that was organizing it saw it, and they told on the kids, so the kids actually got caught. And this was really good. It was a wonderful thing that an adult stood up and said, "No, I refuse to cover up for these kids. You guys did it. Now you're going to face the consequences. Although I don't think any consequences were faced. Our government has come to a situation where they don't care. They'll just, these guys, because for some reason they feel they're special, they're Trayvon's supporters, they can do no wrong. It's sort of like the new Black Panthers. They can put a price on George's head, but not face any consequences. So now we're getting to a point in our society where it's not a society of laws, but a society of men, and even more so, a society of men of color. So if you have a pigment in your skin that's darker, you might get off. You might be able to get away with things like, putting a price on somebody's head. You know that a pinky like me, you know what would happen if I did that? I'd be up there and locked up in shackles.
The result, TRACY Martin lost his son.
When George Michael Zimmerman is arrested, prosecuted, and convicted for the murder of Trayvon Benjamin Martin, I'll rest a little bit.
Well, that just ain't gonna happen, because your son died because you weren't watching him. I can tell you right now, when my kids were 17, they weren't wandering around out in the rain in the dark. That just didn't happen. The sun went down, my kids were in the house. If they left the house, they were with somebody in a car. Just, I don't know, I don't want to get on these people. They lost their son. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible punishment. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I am sorry for their loss, even though I feel that they were partially to blame. I don't hold a hard feeling in my heart about them. I just feel like they need to lay off of George. George was defending his life. They need to lay off.
Josh, all week long we'll see protests about this, and one protest online on change.org has gotten a lot of interest. It calls for George Zimmerman's arrest. It has now been signed by 500,000 people.
Isn't that nice that ABC advertises for the protests and helps to organize these protests? Like this guy just said, go to this webpage and you can join too in the protests. Basically what he's telling you. So this is just one of the many, 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 many videos that I'm going to talk about on just with ABC. I'm going to do CNN, CBS, ABC, everything I can find. I'm just going to tear into them. This is my new thing. It's just going to be a blast. Talk to you guys later.